The street is where we create. We call it suburbanpreneurship.
Mixing big company resources with an entrepreneurial spirit.
This is Electric People. Electric People, we're back and we have a party for you today. We got 4 people on the mic. We're interviewing Mike Monteleone. What's up, Mo?
How you doing?
How are you, man?
Doing great. Happy
38 years old.
Yesterday.
39.
Yeah, 39 yesterday.
As of yesterday. I got Daryl Doucette here and Anthony Monaco. What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
We celebrated with some cannolis, which is how you do it when your friend from New York turns 39.
Is the cannoli, is that what came from the bakery yesterday?
Yeah.
That was some of the heaviest, from straight weight of pastries ever.
I took one bite and just gave the rest to Monica. I was like, here.
But I had a
take
cupcake.
this.
That's not
No.
the cannoli is like a filled, it's like
Yeah.
a sweet burrito thing. A sweet
Yeah,
pastry burrito.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A burrito.
It was
A burrito.
it was
filled with
pretty
cream.
it was intense.
I like
Pistachio
sweets.
sprinkled on top.
Yeah.
It was classic.
Dude, I like sweets, and I literally took 2.5 of the 4 inches of frosting off my little cupcake.
It was the size of a fist, that cupcake.
And everybody had whipped cream in their mustaches.
Your friend only turns 39 once.
That's it.
Hey, you're gonna dig 40 though. 40's am I the only 40-year-old in the circle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys just hang with me. I'll teach you how to do it. 40's the best.
Ty's trying to recruit.
No, it actually is the best. It's like when you're like, all right, this is who I am, and I'm moving forward. It's great. So senior market leader in on the East Coast, longtime career seller and leader. How long have you been in the industry, and how'd you get into it?
I've been doing this just about 10 years. I got into it because of Anthony Monaco sitting right here and Jordan Maya.
We should talk about the 4, what do you guys have a cool name?
I was listening to Anthony's episode this morning and the story of bringing in Mo. He's like, we were sending him our checks for a year.
Yeah. It's like the New York 4 or something. You got if you don't have a name, would you like that name?
We don't have a name.
Yeah, we don't.
Could it be like LI4? Are you guys all Long Island?
That is wild that you guys don't have a name considering how much good branding you have
We
done
kind
throughout
of
your careers.
sometimes we play with the Nat Geo thing, but we have another friend, Agron, that's in that group because we did a lot of traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Seidel's the honorary member to that. So
Yeah, Brandon.
He's adopted.
Brandon was the one that brought us all in, so now we got to hook him up.
But are you guys all from the same spot?
No, so I grew up in New Rochelle, which is right outside the city. It's right near the Bronx, and I actually have known Jordan since high school. We're high school boys. 15 years old, I met Jordan. So I came up with him, went to high school with him, partied with Jordan, went to Cancun spring break. We go way back. And then I went to CW Post for college.
Yeah, that's where we met.
And that's where I met
undergrad.
Where's CW Post?
It's in Long Island.
Long Island.
That's where I grew up.
I want to propose the Long Island 4, dude. LI4.
Oh, they wouldn't go for that.
No.
Okay.
Mo is not Long
Jordan
Island.
and Jordan and Mo wouldn't go for that.
What about the New York 4? Does that work?
Because Brandon's from Texas. He's from McKinney, Texas, right?
He won't.
We'll keep working on it.
We got to get something going.
Maybe you guys are the quaddy. You're the
I like
quaddy.
the quad.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So you guys all met in college?
I met Monaco in college. I was just sitting in a dorm room with some friends, and in comes Anthony Monaco, and
Just loud and eating a cannoli.
Yeah, no, he actually he came in.
That guy's my guy.
Not too far off. Not too far off.
Testament to Monaco. He came in and was like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm Anthony. So I'm trying to start a fraternity. I need 25 men, and it's gonna be a lot of work, a year's worth of work, and who's interested?" So
Those are the first words.
pretty much. I mean, he came in swinging of this is what I want to do. This is what I'm looking to accomplish. He was a leader from day one. And a year later, and a lot of work, he was the godfather. He started the fraternity.
Mo goes, I remember this now. Mo goes, I'm really into Knights Templar. I think I would like this. I'm like, dude, I don't think this has anything to do with the Knights Templar. What are you talking about?
I like history, so yeah.
He's a real big history buff. So he's like, Knights of Columbus, Knights Templar. He's like, yeah, I've been studying. He goes, this is great. Sign me up. I'm like, this is not what we're doing.
Mike's like, I've been waiting for this day for my whole entire life.
He's like, are you telling me I could be in a secret society? I'm like, no, it's national.
It's a little bit of Animal House and then that all together.
So why start a fraternity versus join one? Just so you could pick your squad or what?
So Post is a commuter school, and there wasn't really a lot of, I'd say Greek life, but there wasn't a lot to do there because 75% or 80% would go home, and then they would just travel in for classes and stuff. So my brother was a part of this Greek organization called Kappa Sigma. And then we wanted to start I had this idea of starting a chapter, and I was enlisting these guys. When I met Mo stood out of the group because as a founder, you know, he was like one of the guys that was like willing to like put together the bylaws or like get an event together. Or like, I'm like, hey, we need 100 people to come to this educational event. He's like, yeah. He's like, enough said. Like, I got it. And he would just like get the flyers made, and he'd be everywhere, like putting flyers, make sure we got 100 people corralled.
I pictured him doing it in like chainmail, and you're like, no night stuff.
Yeah. You know? Mo was like,
Mike's like, we need a sword at every meeting.
When I met Mo 20 years ago, I could just tell like he was on a different level of like ambition and you know, maturity. And we sunk up right away. Like we knew that we were going to be close. At least I knew. I don't know if he knew that right away, but I was like, I'm going to be really tight with this guy. Like we're going to go places together. So, cause I could just see that he was like really, really motivated, and he knew how to like separate work and play. And then when it was time to, he wasn't like I'm more of a workaholic. He's more of like, he knows when to like, when it's time to work, when it's time to play, and he could play hard, he could work hard.
Well, I work with these guys all the time, and the fraternity background matters a ton. I actually want to get back into that in a little minute. I want to get your version of the story. I've heard Anthony's on his podcast. I was listening to it this morning, of like when you got into this, because I heard about recruiting Mo, but I haven't heard about Mo being recruited and what your thoughts were and how you got into it in early stages.
For the fraternity?
No, for this industry.
For this industry,
yeah, for sales.
So, you know, I had a really strong relationship with Anthony. We had businesses together. We had an ATM business, so we had that entrepreneurial spirit. Jordan.
The ATM business, you guys buying ATM machines and like...
They were breaking into them. That was the business. This is New York.
That's the New York, they're hard to break New York into. Hustle, yeah. So we had done some things together, and then Jordan Maya, one of my best friends from high school, we had an amateur kickball league, sports league. We did dodgeball, kickball. So, he comes to see what we post, and he's a part of this fraternity and the whole crew. And then, years go by, we're all doing our own thing. Monica's ice cream truck route. Jordan's running some bars out in Long Island. And I ended up getting a job for like the county. I was in the voting machine department. So I was working for the Board of Elections. And Anthony, by chance, meets Brandon Seidel, gets recruited to go into solar. And then the first call is to me. He's like, dude, I found it. I found what we're looking for. I was like, explain this to me again. You knock on doors. It's free solar. Like I was into the solar aspect of it, but knocking on doors and everything else, it just sounded like not real. I was like, all right, you know what? I just got this job. I'm really, great benefits, all that. It's a little bit of a risk, and I don't know if I want to do that.
What year is this?
This is 2014.
So you guys had like a pact, right?
Yeah, we had this pact always of like, if we find something, we're going to take care of each other and we'll run with it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I was like, you need to call Jordan Maya because he's at the bars. He's running a handful of bars, but he's tired. Like he doesn't want to be in that world anymore.
Tough world.
Yeah. So he calls Jordan. Jordan crushes it, does like 70 installs in his first full quarter really. And basically throughout 2014, they're just sending me snippets and paychecks and this and that. And it wasn't until the end of 2014 where it really hit me, this concept of time, right? They sent me their year to date and they said, look, this is what we did. This is what's happening. It's real. And I was making like $80K a year and, super safe. And I looked at it and said, if I worked for 3 years, that's what it would take to do what they did in 1 year. If I wanted to do, it would take me 10 years to do what they just did, in maybe 3 years. So that's when I made the decision. I was like, okay, this is time. This is an opportunity to change my whole life. And so it was like a year-long decision. It wasn't an impulse decision. It was really thought out. And then once I had made the decision, it was burn the ships, go all in.
Was your apprehension like the knocking? Because you were already you were doing things, ATM routes and whatever, like the hustle and the risk of business doesn't seem to have ever scared you in your life. Why were you a little later to the game than your buddies?
So I had tried a few things and I failed at most of them, but they were all really good learning experiences. And when I got this job, my parents are old school. They're immigrants. They came from Italy. They were so happy to see me in a stable position with benefits and the whole nine. So at that point, when I had made the decision to jump and go into solar, I had to explain to them what this was. And, you know, I knew what was going to come, and it was just not an easy conversation of, you're crazy. What are you talking about? You're going to move to New Jersey in the winter and knock on people's doors. So, yeah, that was part of the reservation to do it. But I knew right then and there, I was like, look, I see where my life is going in 20 years if I just stick with a, you know, government job versus the potential in this. And, you know, I put that much emphasis in, like, I am going to succeed at this or, like, die trying. Like, that's how much of a conviction I had to do this and jump in and no holds bar and take this real. Like, this wasn't a part-time job. I wasn't going to try it. I was like, if I do this, I'm going to be successful at it. And the other part that I think gave me a leg up is I had two of my best friends prove it was real. And nothing against them, you know, party with these guys, had a lot of fun, traveled the world with them. I'm like, if you guys can do this, I can do this. Mm-hmm. Just give me the formula and I will put my head down and go to work.
I think it's such a good example of a couple of things. Number one, you know, for the guys hitting you up to bring you in, to have, like, we always talk about having, if you want to grow as a leader, having a wish list, right? People that, like, are on your list where you don't necessarily look at it and say, but he would never do it. He just got this new job. Just who would be great at it? Just put him down, right? And sometimes it takes a year, 2 years, whatever. But that's number one. And then number two is that idea, because I'm looking at this circle and all you guys, myself included, burn ships to do this. And I look at sometimes, you know, for people that are listening now, they'll kind of, like, you know, dip their toe in the water and be like, I'm going to try it. And I always think that's a bit like, it's a bit like saying, okay, well, I'll try working out. I'll see how I like it. Pause. You're not going to like it. It sucks. Mm-hmm. It's really hard, right? You feel awkward at first. The results take forever to come. Your body is sore. You feel, you know what I mean? Like, you compare yourself to other people. You're not going to like it. I think it's better to say, give this everything you have for 6 months. Everything you have. Or I remember, we hired this guy once that used to build motorcycles for me. He was like my guy that, like, would build custom bikes for me. And he came out and he's like, I'm going to try it. And I was like, commit to installing 10, right? Don't come out and try it. Like, don't come see if you like it. You're not going to like it. It's hard. But install 10 and then reassess and see how you feel. And it didn't end up working out for him, but he installed 10. And so I was like, dude, I respect it. Like, okay, at least now you got a sample that you can, like, look at. But there's even as you said it, there's energy in that statement of, like, okay, I'm doing this. Because when you finally burn the ships and say I'm all in, you feel the bumps in the road differently. You know, like, if you're trying it out, you get a bump in the road and you're like, see, I knew it. Like, maybe I should, right? But when you're like, well, I'm here, I guess this is just, I guess I'm just going to have to sell 100 to install 50 or whatever it is, right? Like, you think it's like being in a boxing match or something, and it's like, okay, you got hit. Well, if you're finishing the match, it's like you're going to get hit a bunch of times and you just keep going. But if you're seeing if you like it, you're like, I got hit once, I'm out. I don't know if that makes sense, but I noticed that, especially with, like, knowing all your stories of moving to different places, quitting previous businesses. And I think there's such, I don't know, it's almost a relief to say, this is what I'm doing. Hell or high water, like, this is what I'm doing. Yep. You know?
I love that you said 6 months, because that was the number in my head when I started.
Oh, really?
I said, I'm going to go absolutely insane for 6 months straight. I was given the formula at that time. Jordan and Anthony were like, look, if you want to do what we just did, you have to do 8 ACs a week. And basically that was like welcome calls back in the day. So I had
like 8 CSs or SRAs now, whatever.
Correct. Yeah, like 8. So I had this formula in place where I was like, okay, cool. You've given me the cheat sheet to do this. I just have to do the work. So what does it take? How many hours? So it's simple, but it's not. Just reverse engineering the numbers, like we always talk about, and then just going to work and getting it done. And then more importantly than the 8, I had a buffer of 5. Like, that was my bare, the floor was more important to me, where, like you said, come hell or high water, I can never, ever go home unless I get 5 on the week, but I was always shooting for 8. And it's funny what happens when you put that all together. My first 6 months, I averaged 8. It was like 7.8 every single week for 6 months straight.
That's a difference between when you have that commitment to, like, go absolutely insane for 6 months, your baseline is so much higher than, like, a minimum standard that's given to you, you know? And it's nothing against local, but, like, if you don't find a way, if you're not, like, moving, which most people don't, if you don't find a way to have that same level of commitment, and you're just like, well, I at least got to get to base, you know, I got to get my 3 installs this quarter or whatever. It's kind of all, you know, in most cases, it's all you'll ever do. And
I think Mo's big commitment there too was people don't know this about his story, but he commuted from New York to New Jersey on a Monday morning at like 7 a.m. to get to the team meeting. And then he stayed with me and Jordan. Like he like slept in a guest room for the week.
We had corporate housing back then.
Oh, it was corporate housing?
Corporate housing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
Corporate housing, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's like you basically, luckily I had Anthony Bombase, who I was rooming with, but every day we would get home from work. And the goal was like, are 2 random people with us or not? Like, we just weren't sure.
Corporate housing was the single worst decision for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's
like
a
the
shell
company
in the city, and we just pile people in.
We had some people that we
like
put in there, and they were renting it out. Like they were double renting it to
when you first got in, there was nobody else in there with you guys, and then it was like
we just random people like, hi, I'm so and so, I'll be your new roommate for the next I don't know how long until I stay here. So it was interesting.
As you were talking, and Daryl hit on this, but I wonder how those numbers sounded to people that come in now, because part of it back then is the earning potential was a lot lower per account. You had to do 8 new accounts a week in order to justify leaving your previous job and like really building a career out of it. Now it's like 2. But the thing that I believe is necessary to grow and experience like the fire that you have for your career and your job is doing work that you're capable of, right? Like Daryl hit on it, but it's like you come in and like a lot of people say, okay, what's the minimum? And you're like, well, you got to do at least 1 a week. And they're like, all right, 1 a week's the goal. No, that's like, we always talk about like when you were at Post, you didn't try to get 67% on all your classes, right? You can graduate with a D, but that wasn't your goal, right? You were so far from a D. And so maybe talk about what you see now with the people that are coming in, because all of us felt that way coming in. I remember one of my things was I had 10 permits at the city at all times. At all times there was 10 in process. So then like at that level, like your mindset's different, right? Like if you have a committed customer and you have at least 10 at the city and you lose 1, whatever, I got 9 more. If you have 1 and you lose it, it's a big deal, right? And so maybe talk about what you're seeing now and how other people could use that mentality. I just wonder if a new rep is like 8 a week, but everybody was doing that and you were brand new and we didn't have training and solar was new and we didn't have tools and we didn't have immediate designs and you didn't have like a wealth of knowledge around you. So maybe elaborate on that and contrast with what you're seeing with people that are coming in now.
Yeah, I think it's a level of ignorance on fire, and you're just doing it, and you don't really know what is big or what's not big. You just
ignorance on fire needs to be the name of your first album.
That should be the name of the Long Island 4.
Yeah,
ignorance on fire.
IOF.
Did you just make that up? That was great.
They might like that one. I don't know. They might like that one.
Claim it.
Look, it's. I only knew what I knew, and I knew that Jordan and Anthony were like, this is what you have to do, so just go do it. So I didn't know any better. I was like, okay, cool. Like, that's what I'm going to go do. Funny side story in that is that my first, I didn't get paid for the first 3 months. I just knew I had an edge because I had 2 people that had proven it. So I knew, all right, cool. Just put your head down and work and don't worry about the small stuff. There was a time where we had a permit runner who, I was like, hey, I put in like all these jobs. Like, do you know like where they're at? And, we've come to find out she had to get fired. She basically didn't submit like 20 permits to the city. So at the time, we talk about losing 1 account. Yeah. I was told that 20 of my accounts were just like gone. I was like, okay, yeah, cool. I mean, I have a lot, so I'll just keep doing it, right? Everything. And Jordan's like, yeah, don't worry about anything. Just keep going with it. But I think it's coming in now. I think we just don't overcomplicate it. One of the biggest reasons why I feel like I did well is just I had a bigger picture mentality. I had a strong why. This wasn't like a 2-month gig, a 6-month gig. This was something that I saw that I can change my entire life. And I think when reps come in and they just look at this, like you said, maybe just trying or, hey, I want to make a couple bucks and, just want to do whatever with it. If you don't have something bigger you're shooting for and having these guardrails in line, you're not going to treat this, you're going to treat it like a job. And it's not a job. It's an opportunity.
As a job, I don't even feel like solar sales is a very great job. It's like if you're going to go make 80, 100K or something, like there's way more stress-free ways to do that. Like do this if you're trying to change your life, which is how you approached it.
Mo has this, knowing Mo for as long as I know him 20 plus years, he's got this, there's like a deep-rooted mentality of like, Mo, talk to them about your thought process with your upbringing and like that piece rate kind of bit.
So at an early age, I worked at basically it was like a baseball card sorting factory, if you will. It's like Fleer, Topps, all that. You would take home.
Did you put the gum in the packet?
Almost. It was.
I bought some of those old cards the other day, and I ate the gum, and it was like 50 years old.
At least.
Something.
Yeah.
This is an amazing story. I love this.
And it's not wrapped. It's just
It's just in there
with the printed stuff.
Just melted. So basically what we did was we took these boxes home, big boxes, like a couple feet by a couple feet, and it had thousands of cards in it. And your job was to take out a stack of cards and separate them into piles, whether it's like Yankees, Cubs, Red Sox, whatever.
So you do it by team?
By team or by player, just depending on the box. And then you put them back in with newspaper clippings, just separating everything. And we got paid, I think it was like $200 a box. I'm 14 years old. Like, this is my first exposure to, I think it's called like piece rate work. So the faster you work, the harder you work, the more you're efficient, you make more money. And I love that idea. I was, I guess I was exposed to this idea of, don't just work 9 to 5 and be told like you're worth just whatever they want to pay you. The harder you work, the more money you can make. So that always stuck with me. And then this concept of time. My mom at one point was working in a nursing home where she was like taking care of elderly people, and me and my sister would just be there a lot. So I was around a lot of old people at a young age. And I feel like between some words of wisdom that I got here and there and just like seeing, maybe it's a bit morbid, but like the end sometimes, and this whole concept of time and just how to slow down time. And so that mentality to this job meant a lot to me, because I felt like it was something that, you can just go put in your 20 years somewhere and that's all you're worth, or you can use this vehicle, use this opportunity to literally change your life, change the trajectory. And I think I brought that sense of intensity when I started here, and really saw it for what it's worth, not just hey, yeah, I can make some money and then, I don't know, go buy a car. Like, that wasn't the goal.
Yeah. I love the word vehicle. I was thinking we did this incentive and we got to go to the Porsche racing school out in Alabama, and I love Porsches and racing and stuff. And I've done it a bunch. And so as we were like working with the coaches and stuff, we were going faster and faster and faster and faster. And a couple things I noticed about the vehicle is it was really safe at high speeds. It could, anything that I could throw with my skill level, anything I could throw at it, it could handle. And so, you train all day, and then at the end you get to take a couple laps with a pro and levels, right? Like driving the car, and I was like, man, I was feeling like pretty proud of myself. I was putting up pretty good laps. I got some compliments from the guys, so I was feeling good. And then I got in with the pros and I was like, oh. But the thing I took away from it is this thing can handle it. And when I think about the job, when I think about the opportunity, when I think it can handle so much more than people throw at it, And so the second thing I was thinking is...
It makes me think of when you're like, 70 installs in Jordan's first quarter. It's like, you actually can't do that everywhere. Like, that's throwing pro level driving at a car that you need to make sure it can take the turns.
And with that permit specialist that dropped the ball on 20 permits, Mo finished with 62 installs his first quarter.
That's right.
Unreal.
I mean, he said 8. I remember distinctly it was 8 a week. He did not finish a week without 8. So he's always 8+ a week before he would call it. He was like, I'm not giving up a week at 7. So that mentality, like, he just knew that sort of the piece rate is like, if he put in more, he was going to get more out of it. And he didn't leave that cushy job at Westchester Board of Elections to just do another $80,000 a year. He was making $80,000 a year, just, doing his government job. He left that because he knew he can make 160, and he can, if he doubled his work with this whole like piece rate mentality. And I found that really interesting. We were chatting about it the other day.
It actually reminds me, because I think part of my early success was that I had a big term why. I knew like conservation and stuff like that, but my short term why is I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. I had something to prove. I had just left this cushy job, had no support from my family and friends. They all were like, doubting me. So when I came out and did this, that's hey, I have to do this. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no other alternative. So there was something to prove, and just once the formula was in place and just working towards that, I think the other big part of, for new reps is just taking the emotion out. It's one of the hardest things to do, but it's really, I always looked at it as a like a scavenger hunt. Like, every door is either like a zonk or gold, and you have 2,000 homes in your area, and just you have to get through all the homes. And if you do that effectively, efficiently, and just don't let the emotion kick in. You're guaranteed X amount. You just actually have to go and do the thing. That's it.
So talk about how you kept the emotion out. So you mentioned looking at every door like that. I also see a couple parallels. Like one thing that you did is you started with a vision for how you wanted your life to be, not a thing you wanted to buy, which we always talk about visions. It's okay if your vision's small at first. It's okay to say, hey, I want to get out of debt or I want to buy a car. That's okay. But as you develop, the vision needs to expand. One thing that I'm hearing from you is you came in and you saw this as an opportunity to buy back years of your life, which is a very strong vision. It's like, okay, how am I using my time, and am I bringing max value to the hours? And so that can get a man to move to Jersey in the winter and knock doors, right? That can get a man to do things. But then you backed it up with a target of saying, okay, 8's the number. So I'm doing this to, buy back invaluable time in my life, time that I couldn't purchase anyway. This is a way to get it. In order to get that time, I need to be doing 8 a week. That setup is really powerful. But then what did you do from there to keep your temperament and emotions even keeled?
So this maybe doesn't work for everybody, but for me and the way my brain works, it was a lot of preparation. So what I mean by that is when I was given my area, I needed to sort this out and just figure it out, just to simplify. I don't want to think when I'm on the doors. Too much thinking is just like analysis paralysis, and that's where the emotion can kick in. So the way I do this is I go to my area, and I just scrubbed all my inventory. I said, okay, which ones are good? Which ones are bad? Let me just get those out of the way. Great. I went from 2,000 homes down to 1,200 homes. Awesome. And then they were all a certain color for me. So it was just blue, in, doors or whatever. And once I just...
So you went through and dispositioned these in your sales tool?
Yeah. So I know that's kind of crazy to do up front, but I would do it off hours where, not the best knocking.
So you go through and be like, this is a bad roof, this is a renter, and just get them off the list.
You're like, I want my prime hours to be as efficient as possible.
That's that baseball card sorting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So there is a lot of legwork there, but once it's done, you have your inventory sorted. So now I know exactly where to go. So when I pull on a street, I know that I'm a visual person. So I just look at my prospecting tool and I say, okay, on this street, I have 5 homes that I need to get in front of. My job is just to get in front of those homes, deliver a message, obviously use our sales skills to convert. But, I would just drive, look at the house. Any signs of life? Nope. On to the next one. Any signs of life? Nope. Oh, 2 cars in the driveway? I'm out. And I would just run to the door.
That could be a block of 20, but you've already sorted it. So
yeah, so it made the job simple because my perception of it, my persona was I'm almost like a delivery person, and I just have to go to all these stops and I have to deliver this message. And regardless of the outcome, I don't get excited if I get one. I don't get sad if somebody tells me no. I just keep it moving on to the next one to fulfill and finish this task that I have.
Have you read Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield?
I've not.
You should read it because you think like Stephen Pressfield. He basically goes through and breaks out the difference between a pro and an amateur, and most of it's just your mentality. Like when I hear you talking, I'm like, oh, you just made a decision to turn pro. And so what a pro does is a pro's mentality is he calls it workmanlike. So it's it's not, oh, I'm relying on the muse or my sales skills here. It's pretty simple. 7 houses on this street that I got a shot selling. So I probably should talk to those 7. That one looks like it's home and that one's not. If it goes well, that's great. If it goes bad, all right, there's 6 others and there's thousands of others in this community that I got to cover. Very common, ordinary workmanlike, right? The ones that are more amateurs, they place all this emotional weight in how they're doing. So it's I messed that one up, or I blew it, or could you tell me what I did wrong? Pro doesn't you're almost in autopilot a little bit, right? And I know that feeling, right, guys? When I go into a neighborhood, it's kind of you almost take your personality and you just dial it back to a 5.5, and you're just and you just go. You just go, right? You're like, what's the lowest amount of input I can put to make this machine go? And I check the boxes, and some of them do it and some of them don't. And if they do, great. But one of the things he talks about in that book is an amateur gets overinflated when things go well, and they fall into desperation when their star falls. When they blow it, they lose an account, and they're like, everybody on the team's got to hear about it. Oh, it was this whale of an account, and I lost it. And bro, it was going to be this commission, and whatever, versus the pros like, yeah, I lost 2 today too. And I got 4. And it just is, you know?
This is, we always joke on Mo, and we call him one track Mo. So he does this thing where he's like, he gets in that exact mode that you're talking about, where he's like a locomotive. He cannot be stopped when he's in that. It might be a lower pace where you're just, like you said, it's unemotional, and he's just like on a different wavelength almost, but he cannot be stopped. He's like a locomotive.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
it's like you put it in gear and then just let it go.
That's it. Exactly. We call it one track Mo. So we're like, oh, here we go. When Mo gets on the track and when he gets started, there's an obsession with preparation that gets him to is like whatever it takes mentality, but it's obsession with being prepared before he's there, so that when he's there, he can just stay on that gear. He doesn't have to change gears.
There's a couple reasons that I've seen people obsessed with preparation before, and there's a wrong reason and there's a right reason, which is what we're talking about. The wrong reason is like, I don't feel ready, you know, and I don't feel prepared, so therefore I shouldn't go take action yet, and so I need to over prepare. Yours was, my hours of action are extremely valuable. I want to maximize those as much as I can. And I've got some other hours, you know, that are less impactful or less necessary that I can put in to make, you know, the primetime hours more effective.
Yeah. And I think
that's really smart.
That helped avoid the solar coaster, which unfortunately, you know, people go through. And I luckily haven't had to go through that, because I just said, okay, just stay even, don't get excited, don't do this, and it will work. The formula works. You just have to. I think the biggest problem is that people are always looking for that, you know, what's the secret? What's the secret? I actually remember distinctly a rep drove like 2 hours to come meet me. I never met him before. He's like, hey, I want to check you out. You're crushing it. We knocked all day together. And at the end of the day, it was like the biggest backhanded compliment. He goes, so, that was great and all, but is there anything else you're doing? I'm like, no, man, I just do this like 6 days a week, and I'm sorry that I disappointed you. And that's why, that's the quarter I did like 60 something installs.
And that rep's like, I got to knock with someone else.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, you're missing it.
Yeah.
Does that, I had this theory, the things that people see, like look at like professional sports. So you look at a pro, they take a shot, they miss it. The pros don't really react. They're going to take a lot of shots. I got to get back to the next thing. That already happened, whatever. And a lot of it is the thing that attracts us to it are the big moments, right? But that's so irregular. Like, I think a pro knows to look to your routine and how to, like, if Anthony is watching you go knock, he's like, hey, how'd you set that up? What, these numbers that are on your prospecting app, what is that? Like, they know what to look for. The rep that came and knocked with you is looking for the big close and the one-liner that you used, you know? So I have a theory that a lot of leadership is about energy management as well. Like, you think it's this big, larger-than-life moment where you're on the stage and you're making these points and it, like, creates this new, like, pathway to somebody's breakthrough. But really, a lot of leadership is energy management. It's doing the same things. It's knowing where to put your energy and how much. Does that resonate with you, and how do you apply the same things to leadership? Because you do so many things now. It's not just about knocking doors. You lead massive groups, and you guys are building teams, and you're building a region.
Yeah.
So does that resonate, and how does that apply?
It does. Don Gomez talked about this yesterday in the Boston North meeting when we checked it out, and it goes back to, I use the analogy of a battery, right? You have a cell phone, has a battery life. There's only so many hours that thing's going to go. And you want to protect those hours, protect that battery. You know, you can look at a phone that might be a couple years old, and what starts to happen? Yeah. The battery drains really, really fast. So I think I try to approach this where I'm always trying to protect my energy and making sure that battery is charged, and I'm not letting it become a 3-4-year-old phone that just starts to die really fast. And that's with just, you know, prioritizing and putting your effort into the right things, and
not be a phone that has 50 apps open, all pulling.
Processing in the background.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think that can happen in this job, and even on the simplest levels of like what times to do your bucket work, what times to, you know, be prospecting. I'm big on analogy. So the other one I always think about is, you know, have you ever seen like one of those money machines that you step in and the dollar bills are like flying around? And I always tell my team, I'm like, look, imagine being in one of those. Imagine the machine is running, and you're just standing outside of that machine. Like, what are you doing? That's what happens during prime time hours, where you're just, you know, calling me up about, an account that's falling off at 4:00 in the afternoon. It's like, dude, the money machine is on. Like, do this at a different time. Do it when the money machine's not on. Do it at 6, 9 in the morning.
Like taking a bathroom break during the while
the
money machine is on. You're like, no, you like hold it. Like go get the money.
That's a great analogy.
That'd be crazy.
So it's I think our battery can drain really fast if we're just doing the wrong things. But if you have it set up the right way, you're not having all these energy leaks and you just feel better about it. You're not like behind and chasing. And you just got to work the process.
The word you used was protect. I think that's really valuable. You got to protect your time. Like an athlete would protect their energy level. They would protect their fitness. They would protect their mentality. They would think about what's going into their brain as they go to the game, as they're prepping, as they do their routines and stuff. You have a professional opportunity. So you have to have professional habits, right? But that word really stood out, protect. And I hope like the people that are listening, like I think a lot of times they don't think about the resources that they have to build their opportunity with. And the resources that you have are your skills, your time, your tools, your opportunity, and then your territory. And a good leader is one that can appropriately employ resources. It's not someone that does everything. It's somebody that appropriately employs resources, right? And manages it. So I think of like, having energy management with leadership. It's what kinds of things do you tolerate? What kinds of things do you allow? And I'll tell a story. I think I've told it before, but I had this rep come and stay with me. Do you know Dean Passawisti?
Yeah.
He was in my
yeah.
He was in my Thousand Oaks office.
That is not the name I thought you were about to throw out.
I love Dean Passawisti.
Oh,
man.
He's the best.
Yeah, he's the best. He was in my first solar office, and
did you also have his brother?
No.
Did you have Adam? No. Okay. Cool.
I knew him from alarms though, but he. So my wife was out of town for a couple of weeks, and his wife was gone for some reason, and he said, "Hey, can I come stay with you at your house while your wife's gone?" And I prefer to have people around, so I was like, "Yeah, that's great, man." And I remember like he was doing the same thing you were talking about, where he's like looking for the secret. And I was up in the morning and I was eating like this, like, I don't know, it was like granola or something like as my cereal. And he sits next to me. He's like, eating granola. And I was like, oh no, this isn't a thing. He's like
takes notes.
Yeah, he's like, I see you. I'm like, no, this isn't deliberate. Like,
he's like, I knew I was missing something. It's the granola.
But Dean was really fit. He was like in incredible shape. And one of the things, we were sitting at that breakfast and he's like, hey man, like, do you ever just like vent? Like, I just need to vent. And back to energy management, one of the things personally for me, I'm like on the Enneagram, I'm a 7, so I'm an enthusiast. I like positivity. I avoid pain by focusing on the bright side of things and stuff. And so Dean was like, do you ever just need to vent? And I know that for energy management, I can't do that, nor can I allow it because it drains my battery. Working on problems is different. Like venting for me is very, it seems like a way to drain my battery inefficiently. And so I looked at him and I was like, do you ever just need to just throw down on a cake? Like, do you ever just need to take a whole cake and just pound it? And he's like, no. And he's very fit, right? And I was like, it tastes really good going into your mouth, but then once it sits on you, how do you feel? Like the sugar, and you feel heavy and disappointed in yourself. And I was like, to me, that's what venting is it feels really good exiting your mouth, but then you've created this energy that lives around you and it actually makes you slower. Wow. Right? And so I'm looking for stuff like that where like, okay, for my personal mental and developmental fitness, I know I can't have negativity around me. And I want to stress that's different than working problems. I'm fine to look at problems. I'm fine to look at things that are broken and I'm fine to address them. I'm not fine to sit and uselessly bitch about it because to me, it feels like I'm losing battery for nothing. Like, this isn't serving me and it's hurting me, you know? And
when all of us, when we're venting, we literally know that it's negative. It's like the word venting means like, I'm not even trying to fix it. I just want to be negative.
But we
for
think
a minute,
we need it.
You know? Yeah.
We think we need it. And then I had that epiphany when I was like, do you need that cake? You know, it's going to hurt you, but it tastes good. And so anyway, like that's one of those things that I'm wondering if there's any like Mo-isms in leadership, like things that you expect of the people that you lead or things that you have found help you be a better leader?
You know, I appreciate work ethic. That to me is currency. When people are just doing the thing, I'll gravitate to that. I'll help. I'll get in the field with them, whatever it takes. But when I see somebody who is like, hey, I'm having this problem, this and that, and I'm like, cool. So like, talk to me about your schedule. Like, what have you been doing? How many hours have you been putting in? And then I hear like, well, I worked like 2 days last week. Like that to me is, it's just an excuse. I think you have to, this is a job that you have to do the thing. If you're not doing it constantly, you're not taking it serious. So, for sure.
Well, where's this, like, your work ethic is, like, I would say one of your biggest superpowers. Like, where does that stem from?
Probably my parents. I mean, my dad came here when he was 6. He was a roofer. It's a tough life. It's hard.
I just pictured a 6-year-old roofer.
That's exactly what I just
little
pictured.
tool belt,
little
like
6-year-old Italian boy, just shingling houses in the city.
I'm ready to go. Let's go.
You're like, this kid's incredible.
Tool belt down to his ankles, the pocket.
Yeah, no. So he instilled that in me, and he actually crazy. He fell off a roof in the city, in New York City, and
those are high roofs.
High roof. Actually, almost died. It was pretty wild. I was young, and then I watched my mom have to like step up and say, okay, she's also an immigrant. She came here when she was 17. She went to the 7th grade. Like she doesn't, Wow. So she did whatever she could do. She cleaned houses and nursing home stuff. She finally got a job as a custodian. So I watched them work really, really hard. And that, Ann and I talked about this before, but like the sense of security and me watching this, being a kid. And I was always proud that they worked so hard. They gave me and my sister a shot. And I was like, I have to do something with that. Like they sacrificed a lot and I don't want to just sit back and just take that for granted. So it's this, that is definitely the work ethic that was instilled in me and having a higher sense of purpose. And, I always talk about my why, but like the conservation stuff and stuff later on I want to do. So yeah, that's where that comes from.
Yeah. Ma was part of a conservation group in South Africa, which is pretty cool. A big part of his why.
Go on.
Soldiers for Wildlife, right?
So yeah, I've always, I traveled, a lot. I've been to with Anthony. We've traveled all over the place.
Yeah, but you've got me. How many countries have you been to?
I'm over like 50 countries.
Dude, your guys' crew is awesome. Like I always see people like I see your values in the things that you pursue. Like I can tell that you value work, you value education, you value opportunity, and that all of you guys now. The quaddie, we're all in different states.
The ignorance on fire.
On fire.
Do you know how many people have tried to get into this group?
Yeah, you're not getting it.
Jeremy Long better be listening. Jeremy's been trying to get into this group for so long. When I blow out my candles for my birthday every year, I make a wish to get in this group. It's like the coolest group of people.
Look, my parents, I went to Italy a lot as a kid, and they're from southern Italy, very rural, a farm. So I got a sense of culture and just saw a different way of life. So I think I was exposed early on to, a different type of life. And so I'm also a history buff and I like that. So I made it a purpose to travel, to experience things, to see, World Heritage sites, all these things around the world. And I dragged these guys to half the places. And so that was part of it. But the conservation side, it ties in so well with solar. It's like the conviction in what we're doing, and changing the planet. When you guys talk about that, like that resonates. Like I really believe in that. And so I'm on the board for a nonprofit called Soldiers for Wildlife. Its whole purpose is to protect wildlife. Its founder is John Garcia. He, former military, dedicated his life to wildlife. And they do a couple things, but it's all, again, revolving around protecting wildlife. So one is they do community outreach. So basically they teach the local communities about why conservation is important. There's a famous saying called "you have to see it to save it," and the reality is a lot of these kids who live right near the park have never seen the park. They don't have the money to go into the park, so they teach the community. They'll fundraise and take the kids into the park, so they get this sense of like, wow, this is ours. We need to protect this. The other thing that they do is they do advanced ranger training, which is, sometimes we picture rangers as like a park ranger at a national park. Over there, it's a little bit different. There's a lot going on in wildlife and poaching, so they need higher skill sets to save their own lives. So John's taken his military background and put training programs together for them. And then the final thing is actually poaching, like anti-poaching. So they'll do, they have canines, German shepherds, they go around, they do patrols, they'll either stop poachers, and then or snares. So what snares are, it's basically like a piece of metal, like a wire, and it's almost like a noose. So you basically, poachers will put it on a branch so that if an animal walks by, it can go around their neck, or they'll put it on the ground so if an animal walks by, they'll step on it. And it's one of the worst ways to go. So their job is to try to find these snares before they're put to use and remove them from the wild. And they actually make these bracelets from them, which is pretty cool. This is like a hemp bracelet, but this little piece of metal is actually part of the snare. And those funds just go right back in, and it's this circle, and the goal is to...
I should have worn mine today.
Yeah.
We should put a link in the show for people that want to grab one of those. I've seen those before and knew that they had something to do with it, but I didn't know that full background.
Which part of Africa again? Oh,
so they're in South Africa. They've done work in Zambia as well, but and actually through Sunrun, I didn't even know this exists until recently. You have something called Benevity. You have like a partnership. So when you go into the one platform, you have like Workday and all that stuff. One of the options is Benevity, and any nonprofit for that matter that you're passionate about, you can go in and Sunrun will match up to $300 per year, which is amazing. So if you donate $300, it's technically $600. So
that's cool.
You can type in whatever charity
Per
you
individual?
want. Per individual, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Per individual per year?
Per year, yeah.
That's
So
really
we've in the New York North office in Long Island, a couple people have gone in and you type in Soldiers for Wildlife and you can donate. But you can donate to anybody. It doesn't matter.
Poaching sounds like the most evil thing. It's like you literally, like, what are you actually doing? You know, you're killing this majestic, like, invaluable, priceless animal so that you could extract like worldly, like, luxury items from it and sell it for cash. It's like seriously like the most evil thing.
Yeah.
Well, you said you're like, and everyone knows this phrase. I didn't know this phrase. You got to see it to save it.
Yeah.
I almost like pulled up my phone and wrote a note. I think that's so applicable. Like you've walked me through this wildlife conservation effort, and Karen and I got involved in whatever in it, and it, as soon as you see it, it's really exciting and really something you want to be a part of. I really feel like you are an incredible example of someone who, because you're preparation focused and you're meticulous and you take your things seriously, like when I see you speak in front of teams, you see what we're doing out there for customers and for our communities more than the average rep, I would say, which has got to be a part of your success. Like, how do you feel about your, how important your commitment to like the why of our product has helped you? Because I see you doing it all the time, but I've never asked you about it.
Yeah, it's something that something that's changed my whole perspective. I read a book called Hot, Flat, and Crowded. I don't know if you've ever heard Thomas Friedman. So the book talks about...
It's like the concert we went to last night.
Oh, man. Can you hear my voice? My voice is destroyed.
On the turf.
Yeah.
This is a bunch of 40-year-olds, for those listening, that relived our youth, younger days at
I
Blink-182.
lost my cell phone in a mosh pit last night, and I feel so great about it. I got it back.
Me too. Let's go. I tie it all back in because that book, and what we do, it all really, came to it and tied in. But it's Hot, Flat, and Crowded talks about three principles, and it's the world is getting hotter, it's getting flatter, and it's getting more crowded. So, and the hot part talks about, and politics aside, because you don't want that to get in. But if you look at this as, unbiased as possible, they do ice core samples. Yeah. They'll go to like Antarctica and they'll drill way down. And they look at these samples and they basically say, okay, the parts per million, how much CO2 is in this ice? And it's pretty, evident that as like we get closer to the Industrial Revolution, it's just you're seeing higher spikes. And then you're drawing this, tying it together, that's probably human involvement there. So, but the world is getting hotter. Like all the indications are there, the studies are there, and that's a problem because we don't want that to happen. So that's one. Flat is you're seeing this hundreds of millions of people are coming out of poverty, which is a good thing. The drawback to that is, as they want to live a good life and maybe a Western civilization life, they want things. They want a car. They want air conditioners and things like that. Things that use a lot of energy and draw a lot of power. So you're seeing, additional stress on the planet. And then finally, Crowded just addresses the absurd, time we're living in because it's all about population and numbers. For right now, there's about 8 billion people on the planet. And if you look at this on a chart, there's this amazing video you can watch. It's the American National History Museum. You can Google it, just type in like population video. And it shows from like, the last 2,000 years, from zero to all the way to maybe the 1700s, we sat at just under 1 billion people, right? And just pretty steady. Industrial Revolution comes along, and then it starts to spike. And if you like stocks or anything like that, you see like one of those crazy graphs that shoots up. And the numbers go, from 1950, I mean, we still were at like 2.5 billion. From 1950 to now, to 2024, right? You're at 8 billion people. In somebody's lifetime, like it more than tripled. And that type of sense of like, take a big step back and understand what's happening is wild. Imagine a household of 4 people, and now you have like 14 people in that house. Like
Ty is
I've contributed
largely
to
responsible.
Right? No, look,
it's got so many kids.
I've contributed.
It's definitely not about like population stuff. It seems like we're going to cap out at like 10 billion is what they're saying around 2050, and then it'll actually, Elon Musk bangs on the drum about like he's worried that the decline after
right.
What's going to happen there. So, but the whole point of that is and tying it back into solar is that this opportunity, the industry we're in, the timing of everything, it really is. I know it's cliche. It's like, oh, it's a once in a lifetime. We need to change the way we get our power, and that's for so many reasons. So that tying it back in, and the conviction is when I'm on a door talking to somebody and they say no to me, I almost feel bad because they just don't see the big picture and understand the gravity.
Because if you see it, you save it.
You see it to save
right?
it. Like there's
really
a lot going on in the planet, and it's a lot bigger than like, yeah, let's just save like $20. And I'm like, you need to think about your children and your grandchildren in this decision about yes or no if going.
I just
solar.
pictured you on a door, and someone's like, "Yeah, not really the time." And you're like, "You need to think about your listen."
Like, I don't think $20 is enough in savings. Like, listen, is your grandkid in the back there? Can you bring him up?
Hold him in your arms. Look at his hands.
Yeah.
There's have you ever read anything by the founder of Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard?
I haven't, but he's really big. And
He's
he's amazing.
Yeah, so I get most of my like podcast and book recommendations from Brian Rossiter. We need to have like a Rossiter's read list. But he got me on this book called Let My People Go Surfing. It's by Yvon Chouinard. And it comes from the idea that at Patagonia in Ventura, California, they would have surfboards, and he would encourage his people to take some time and go out into nature, like go surf, go for a couple hours and then come back and do your work. And it's about productivity, but it's also to keep them tied to that vision of like Patagonia exists, to help preserve the planet is really what they say. And it's an incredible story because that business has grown despite its efforts not to. Like they have stuff like where every Patagonia item has like a lifetime warranty on it. So if you bought like a jacket in 1990 and ripped it camping, they'll fix it or replace it for free. Like it's from a business standpoint.
Was it you telling me that you tried to replace them, or you tried to buy a new one and they're like, well, what's wrong with your old one?
No, but
like,
they have lots of stories of that. Yeah, and they're about minimalism and buying products that last. And, how do you have a jacket that you can camp in and also put over your suit and go to a board meeting in, right? Like, so he talks about that, but he's been so impactful because 1, he has a vision for his life, and 2, to him, this business functions as a way to like fuel his passion, which is like preserving the planet. Yeah. Anyway, you should read his book because you speak like him, but I could see why you're so impactful. Like your peers say incredible things about you. Like we don't know each other all that well, but like from Ant and Daryl, I always get, you gotta talk to Mo. Like he's the best. And I can see why, because you're a person that has a clear vision for your life and you have a clear purpose for why you're doing this. And so it really makes you impactful because you're not out there trying to make $1 million. Yeah. Right. The money comes if you perform well and do good things, but you've enacted these principles that make people want to follow, but it's very inspiring. Like I feel like I should learn more about poaching. Like, yeah, poaching, everybody should be against that. That makes sense. Why are we, you know what I mean? And the planet, let's do more about it. It just so happens that that it's a amazing time opportunity, as you said, like at the same time,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, most people don't come into this opportunity with, conservation goals. Mo came in and he was like, if I can make, X amount of dollars, like what can I do with that for conservation? And, he's always inspiring. He's always inspiring me, but he's inspiring people around him. They could just tell his authenticity and his passion for traveling and for, for our world, for what it is. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a higher level.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going there Thursday. Like,
where?
To South Africa.
So you're going to go take out the poachers. You're going to handle this problem once and for all.
Today's Wednesday.
So Jordan, Maya, and I are flying out to South Africa. I'm going to get Ann out there. But there's a lot happening on the ground, and there's some programs being put together. But on that note of like see it to save it, it's really this difference of ecotourism and being involved when you go away. Not just go away and do your Instagram stuff, but go away and be more involved and understand what's happening on the planet and try to travel positively. So I'll challenge both of you to, when this is like going well and
Eco tour,
a little more dialed in, because we're still building out some of these programs to come out there and see.
What are you doing on Thursday?
Yeah.
What day is it today? I'm expecting to get a text by Tuesday saying fixed.
Yeah.
Fix the
poachers
problem.
Fixed.
Yeah.
I fixed it.
But that would be awesome to come out and spend some time and see what's. Have you either of you been to Africa before?
I've never been to Africa. It's on the list. We've actually
Same.
talked about. It keeps showing up for like Run X trips, is to go to Africa. And one of the things that we would love to do as we travel to these places is incorporate more of like, I like ecotourism. I haven't like, that's the right word. Because service is one thing. Like we always try to do some sort of service, but like ecotourism, I think is better to say, hey, come enjoy like the beautiful, amazing, like you call it Instagram, but like the experiential stuff of the land.
Yeah.
But then, hey, try to make it a little bit better too. There's something there. That's cool.
For sure.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Awesome. So going forward, what are some of your main goals now? Like, what excites you about your opportunity and what you're working on?
As far as like solar, just being in this room, this is exciting. What we just did these last couple of days, that's really exciting.
Talk us through that. What did we just do the past couple of days?
So we, are part of this commission and just bringing together, senior leadership in sales, talent and performance, getting this group together to see the bigger vision and what we're trying to build, and getting that sense of stake in the company, and not just looking at this as in silos and just, hey, you have an office and you have an office. Like, no. We have an entire East Coast that we have to work on and thrive together. I love that. These are workshops that people would pay thousands of dollars to go visit, and we get to hear from some of the best leaders and just learn from each other. Yesterday we went to Boston North and just seeing how they do it, which is one of the powerhouse teams in the company. That's exciting to build, to be able to copy paste some of that, and really for all of us to just level up at the same time. So, and there's a lot of stuff in New York we're talking about and seeing what we could do there. We're in a section of it. There's a much bigger state, so there's potential there as well. So that all excites me, the growth opportunity. And then on a personal front, it's using this opportunity and the funds and all the privileges we get to then try to do some good with that in Africa. And really the nonprofit stuff is what keeps me going, like pushing for
the exposure piece is awesome. Like I've benefited so much from, I don't know if a lot of people know the amount of deliberate intention that goes into running these groups, right? So once a month at every leadership level, the leaders get together, once a quarter, and they go through like an assessment of the previous quarter, and then they go through like most impactful plans and development plans for their people for the next quarter. And I always wish that sales reps and market leaders could see it, because I think that they would be surprised at how their leaders think about them, right? Like to hear their names. Like when we break off into small groups and we go through our teams and we talk about who's doing what, to hear like the level of, we call it leaderhood, like how well it's a brotherhood. It's a deep level of leadership, like how well and hope things for them. But the deep level of planning to go out and like execute at a high level is pretty cool. But at the same time, going forth and then saying, okay, like I'm actually a part of a bigger whole. Like it opens up, you're a big thinker, but like a lot of times I think people get stuck or frustrated because they're thinking that their job is what they're doing, like what they're doing right now versus what they're contributing to. You know what I mean? Like right now it's like, I'm just like knocking doors. Like, does anyone even know I'm out here? Does it even matter? Like, this is just selfish, whatever. But really, like, you're contributing to this bigger thing, and you do a really good job at focusing on that. Like, even as we've talked about your goals, none of them have been selfish financial, which is okay to have those. Like, you got to live a life and take care of people, and you have a family, and you have people that depend on you. But as long as you're focused a level higher, that stuff handles itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I always just, whenever I'm in those rooms, I'm always like, I wish that the rep that's trying to find, you know, his systems and his developmental like consistency to knock 6 hours a day could see this, could see what's going into creating this opportunity for him, to see leaders toiling and scrapping and searching for what they can implement to help that individual. I don't know, like, but then you look at like, you're already at that level and other people should aspire to that level. So then when someone like you goes into a Boston North, we always say training works well on better on trained people. So you go into Boston North and like immediately the ideas just start flowing, right? Like exposure is expansion. You see an expert and you are an expert. And then all of a sudden you're like, I need a pen and paper. I got to write stuff down. Like it's firing.
It was like 5 minutes in or 10 minutes in. Me and Mo are both with video out, pen and paper.
I talked to these guys like a minute after they'd walked out, and they're like scrambling for pen and paper. It was so funny. And like the same would be true if, you know, Don were in their meeting. Like it's an expert seeing expert. You know,
it seemed like it was like a bizarro parallel world of, you know, we're doing this. It validated a lot of things, but also got us really both excited about some different ways that we can be going about, you know, growing. And, but we're never, neither of us, and me and Mo are like, Mo's like a brother to me. You know, we're just always thinking about what's next. We're never like settled with what it is, you know. And Mo is just.
So what are you guys excited about right now then?
Right now, New York.
What's next?
New York is at its infancy still, and we, you know, I've only been back for 3 years. Mo's been back for, what was it, 2 years now?
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, always comes a year after. Lets you guys take the arrows, and then a year later he'll come scrolling in if it's safe. Got to preserve that energy.
That's his MO. MO.
There's so much to be excited about. Just like there's so much change, right?
Yeah.
Battery and span. Even when I came
all
back,
that matters is that he's back.
Back and just like what's the next thing, and some of the things that we talked about yesterday, and just, you know, getting stuck and thinking about right now is just the wrong way to think about this. We don't know. We have no idea what this will look like in 5 years from now. No idea. And that's what is exciting, because there's so much opportunity. And for anybody listening, it's like, you know, don't think that like you're just knocking doors. There's so many other things, and there's that upward mobility, and this is a franchise within a franchise. It's leaderhood. It's everything. And there's not many things out there that could lead to this. Sitting in a podcast right now talking about this. So, and the difference is you just have to go to work. You just have to go get it and make it happen.
One of the things that both of you, especially Mo and your group, do differently is like the stage of our industry. A lot of evolution, a lot of innovation right now, a lot of need to change and evolve. And so we're seeing battery is the big example today. We have some markets that we have to do battery in now, and we're excited to be doing battery in now, but it's not an option. And then we've got other markets like the one you guys are in that not only is it optional, like we still have a solar only product that's great, but it's like operationally a little more challenging, and you're limited on where you can do those in your New York market right now. And still, with all of that going on, I think it's probably, you know, you see it, you save it, like the future, you know, and people's overall what they can get from your product, you see it to a degree that others may not. And so you're, you know, out there to do it a little bit more intentionally, but you're the number one battery attached program in North New York, even though a big portion of your market is the city where you can't do batteries. So what mentally, or how do you mentally approach like something new that's coming out that you believe in that might not be, you know, simple, and you still go out and get it done the way you have?
I think over time you realize that when the company rolls something out, it's better to just do it. Like just do the hard thing first instead of waiting and wait. I'll see, you know, I'll wait and see. For the early adapters, there's just such an edge, and you get ahead of it. And then when what we know is going to happen anyway, it'll change eventually. You're there already, and there's no catch up. And I attribute a lot of it to the leadership in the office, Mike Pittner, Matt Morea, Roger Flores. Like those guys are just taking battery on and like, cool, yeah, I just sell battery. That's it.
Yeah.
It just happens that way. You know, there is no other option almost. So it's been fun. And those are just, you know, two of many things that are coming down the pipeline that are, you know, to get excited about. So
I love it. Well, dude, there's a lot of, I think, visionary resets in this conversation that I hope people take a lot from. You to me, what really stands out is the energy that you and intention that you've brought to the opportunity. And you're an easy person to root for. It's cool to see you thriving. You'll continue to help a lot of people, and you'll continue to grow. Let's close this thing out. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's been great.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
The opportunity. Thank
All
you.
right, buddy. See ya.
Bye.
If you're listening to this and interested in joining our teams, DM us on Instagram at Run the League.
What are you waiting for? Run the league, shoot us a DM, and let's get going.